Hi, I'm Christina Malcolm, and this is Tufa for jewelry casting. I'm going to be talking to you today about what Tufa is, where to source it, some low-cost alternatives, and give you a little bit of history on the material. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more. So again, my name is Christina Malcolm. I have a master's degree in jewelry metals and enameling from Kent State University. I first started casting with two-part molds when I was in undergraduate school at the University of Akron about 27 years ago. So although I don't have much experience with the tufa itself, I have plenty of experience with two-part molds. So with that, let me show you what a piece of tufa is. Tufa, or tuff, T-U-F-F, is compressed volcanic ash, which is really awesome to me. I love this material. I also love it because of its rich history. Tufa is only found in one place in the United States, and that is on the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico. So when you're in the United States and you buy tufa, it will be coming from the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico. So when you are buying tufa, my favorite place to buy tufa is from a place called Thunderbird Supply. You can get online and type in thunderbirdsupply.com and do a search for tufa, and they're going to ask you for an approximate amount that you need. You're going to have an email conversation with them about the size of tufa that you need. So you're going to need to have your design drawn out so you can take some measurements and then add about 2 inches in every dimension. And then you're going to need 2 pieces that size for your two-part mold. So when you're talking with Thunderbird Supply, it's going to be about a 3-week process to actually get the tufa in your hand. So give yourself plenty of time to make sure you're sourcing the material and you're not going to be rushing at the end. If money is not an issue, it is really awesome. You can go on Etsy and find people who are actually mining this out of their own personal property. Get on Etsy, put in a search for tufa, and you will come across people who have this naturally occurring in their yard. This tends to be a little bit more expensive than ordering it from Thunderbird Supply, but it's pretty awesome. If you're really on a budget, you want to look up something called Hyper Tufa, which is a cement-like concoction that you can buy the ingredients for and mix up all by yourself. It's an artificial tufa. So there you go. There's 3 suppliers right there. You can look it up and make it yourself. You can contact Thunderbird Supply, or you can find it for sale from somebody's yard on Etsy. So let's talk a little bit about the history of this. I mentioned that this is only found on the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico. This technique of tufa carving in the style that I teach is only approximately 200 years old. Excuse me. The Navajos learned smelting practices from the Spanish, and once they learned the smelting practices and techniques, they were able to incorporate that into carving this stone and then making jewelry out of it. So again, I love this material because of that rich history. Why do you want to use tufa? And the simple answer is you can use this casting material. If you make your mold correctly, you can use your mold up to 20 times. To me, that's worth the investment. Unlike sand casting or cuttlebone casting, where you cannot reuse the molds, this can be cured in a manner that prolongs the life of your mold. So curing your tufa, you can do that 2 ways. One is before you start your mold, you need to bake it in the oven. Bake it for an hour at 250 degrees and then up the temperature to 450 degrees and bake it for another 2 hours. So that's 3 hours total. And then you want to leave the oven door closed for as long as possible so the temperature can come down gently and not shock your stone. So if you can let that sit overnight, that would be awesome. If not, let it sit for just a couple hours and cool down. Once you get that out of the oven, you're going to be ready to start making your mold. Perhaps you need to cut your piece in half or to start carving. If you need to cut your piece in half, you need to do that with a bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you need something like a diamond blade on a hacksaw or a coping saw. The bigger the blade, the more material you lose, but the faster it goes. So I would carefully consider your options there depending on the size of your design. I think that does it for me today, and I'm losing my voice. So if you have any questions, please email me. Otherwise, good luck with your tufa casting.